Hello and welcome back to my office. And it's been one of those strange weeks because everyone's in lockdown, we're all stuck indoors, so it's a case of trying to make any sense of anything you're doing, really, isn't it? I have had a degree of success working through this, which is Blackjack number 6, and it's reading very well. I'm pleased with it. 180 pages so far. That is roughly 56,000 words. I've got to add another 20 odd thousand words to it. That's about, hopefully, a week and a half's effort. I started writing this before I flew out to New Zealand for my brother when he was dying, and it was very difficult to get back into it after I got back. But since January, Alan did die in late November, but since January I've found it a much easier book to get back into. It feels better. It's working very nicely in my mind. I've got a lot more writing to do, as I say, a week to a week and a half, which will take me to the end of the month roughly. And what I had been planning to do then was to crack straight on with the next Baldwin and Simon book. That unfortunately doesn't look as though it's going to happen, because I've got one book that's already with my agent. That's what I happily call Shanghai, which is the first in a police procedural series set in the 1920s. The actual book's going to be called One Last Dance Before I Die, which I think's nice. I'm happy with it. The only trouble is my agent isn't, because it's 155,000 words, and she reckons it's 15 to 20,000 over the top compared to what most publishers would really be looking for now. So, as soon as I've finished Blackjack, I'm going to have to go and look at that one again with the agent's notes and see what she feels needs to be tightened or strengthened. She did actually say she really liked it. She was gripped by it. She felt that the characters were good. She liked the local colour that I had from Shanghai. Never been there, so I don't know how she likes that. But it's one of those things that especially when you're trying to set up a new series, and especially when you're without a contract currently, it's quite difficult to see how to push which book, which project you should be pushing, in fact. The latest Baldwin and Simon book has not been accepted as a concept yet. Doesn't mean it's been rejected, but Canelo, my current publishers, are just about to bring out Templars Acre. Here's a pre-release picture of the covers that they've suggested, and here's the cover that I've persuaded them to have a look at. So this is the mock-up that I think we're going to go for. So slightly different. It's a swap around of the internals little picture with the main character in the background. Very pleased with that. Looks good, I think. I do like Templars Acre. I still think it's an excellent book. What is sad is they also publish Pilgrim's War, but apparently sales have been very disappointing for Pilgrim's War, which I find surprising because it mentions Crusades, it has all the right things, but unfortunately there hasn't been very good take-up. So they don't think a second book in that series is worthwhile, which is sort of nice because it means it saves me having to worry about one specific type of project. I can concentrate on a few other things. I still have to finish The Sniper, which was the first book I ever wrote and which is still quite strong. Got to finish that and see if that can be placed somewhere. It may well just turn up as an e-book. I might give that to Sharp Books for them to see what they can do, because they're doing great guns with books right now. I've also got to do this non-fiction story, which is designed to help people who find themselves out of work and how to get a new job. There's a lot of people that book might help, so I want to get that done. But I don't think that's going to be a mainstream published book. I think that's going to be an ebook. And then I also have the modern day policing book. Now this is interesting. I'm going to let you know about this. Slightly different. I was approached some time ago by a guy who had been a policeman for Devon and Cornwall Police, but he got enormously he got into mental difficulties because he was a very competent judo expert, and as soon as the other officers in Devon and Cornwall realised that they had this unarmed combat expert, they sent him into every unpleasant situation they could. He didn't get beaten up, but it did lead to PTSD, and Devon and Cornwall Police were not at all helpful. The PTSD led to a drunk driving charge. That led on gradually to things like drug taking and losing his job. And losing his job meant that he sank further into drugs, and that meant he ended up in jail. So all in all, a very sad downhill story. But he's written it all down. I'm going to put a link in here so that you can see what it's called and so on, because I can't remember the actual title of the book. But Andy Costello is his name, and he's a delightful chap. I've met him a few times, and I helped him a very tiny amount with the editing of his book. Seriously, it's all his work, it's not me. And I tried to get him mainstream published, but unfortunately we failed. There was a belief that there are too many police officers who have got similar stories right now, which is a bit alarming. But he's a lovely bloke, and he's now running a martial arts club in Exeter, and he's got some really interesting characters there. He's got an international rugby player. He's got a guy who's just out of prison who was a drug dealer and a kingpin for drug dealing in the West Country. Various people are all interesting, and they would all like to be put in a book. Yes. This sounds like an easy way of getting myself sued, but they're all prepared to sign a waiver, and it could be just fun to write a book with them, especially since I've got ideas for modern day stories, and I think I could use them in one of them. So a story that I outlined to myself nearly 20 years ago now, which I was tentatively calling Hawkwood because I thought Hawkwood is a nice name. Reminds me of the old medieval mercenary John Hawkwood, who was one of those rare things, a mercenary who managed to die in his bed in old age. But it's the idea of a police procedural set in Devon. And here I've got a ready cast of characters I can use. That's very appealing. Just looking at my notes here of what else I need to tell you about to update you. So I told you about Jack Blackjack, the Bloody Mary Tudor. I've told you about Shanghai. I've told you about the rejection of Pilgrim 2. Possibility of Baldwin and Simon 33. It's actually mostly written, so that one's going to be a case of just a tight edit. And then the final thing I have to mention is, sorry, just looking over to see what the dog's doing there. The final thing I've got to mention is I've set up, or I am beginning to set up, a writing group, which may not appeal to you here, but I thought I'd better mention it just in case. It's basically been set up because one of my viewers on YouTube is very, very keen on my YouTube videos about fountain pens, and he suggested wouldn't it be fun to have a sort of pen pals type group for fountain pen enthusiasts, and I thought that's a lovely idea. The only trouble is that a lot of my viewers are in the States and elsewhere, and I was thinking, well, the trouble is, with the best will in the world, with my finances as they were last year, having a whole bunch of letters to send to the States costing several pounds each, that could be expensive and a bit of a silly waste of my time as well. But then, I don't know, it just appeals. I don't know how many letters I'll be able to write, I don't know how many I'll be able to send, but I was talking to the managing director of Conway Stewart Pens, delightful purveyors of superb pens like my little Model 58, and he said that he would be happy to sponsor it. He even said that in years to come, if it takes off, he'd be quite keen on the idea of investigating making a pen specifically for the club, because they do one-off pens at Conway Stewart. So this is something that may be of interest. If you're interested in that, I'm going to put a link down the bottom, so you can hit that link and have a look at that as well. Actually, no, it's not a link, because I haven't got a link set up. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put an email link down the bottom, writerlywitterings at icloud.com. There you go. writerlywitterings at icloud.com. I'll put a link down the bottom. But if you're interested in the idea of that, let me know and I'll see if I can get things moving. And that, I think, is about it for now. It is now nearly 5:15 on Saturday evening. It's gone completely blackout. I've got an exciting weekend. Tomorrow I've got to replace the internal mechanics of the toilet cistern in my daughter's bedroom. I've also got to... there's just so many things around the house that need doing. Today I had the excitement of taking a whole bunch of garden waste to the dump. It's the sort of exciting life that a world-famous author has. So for now, I'm going to stop working. I'm going to edit this little video. I'll put it up on Patreon. And then I'm going to sit down with Karen Maitland's latest book, which I think is called The Drowned City, which is superb. I've been thoroughly enjoying that. And I'm going to finish that book tonight. There's only another 40-odd pages. And then when I've done that, I've got another book here, 9 Lives, which I've got to read. I actually bought this, it wasn't a review copy, but that hopefully is going to be quite interesting with a view to writing a follow-up to Act of Vengeance. So there you go. What an exciting weekend. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks very much for your patronage as always, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Yes, it is beer.